Welcome to the first episode of this 7-part series on the history of the Great Kingdom of Buganda.
Njagala Kasai means I need blood. Yeah, I need blood. Yeah. When you hear it just openly, it sounds...
It's very eerie and scary.
yeah. It is even scaring, but it has its hidden meaning.
This world is being led by the dead. This world is being led by the dead.
Yeah, in Africa, actually, we almost had similar beliefs. Kings could be buried with a lot of items, to the extent even they were buried with servants.
Ah.
Yes. Now, when it comes to Buganda...
People are buried alive?
Yes, yeah. Actually, it was a pleasure to bury with the king.
Era nze nsanyukira ddala kubanga ekyamazima zaali ssaawa 2 ennaku z'omwezi 16 omwezi ogwokusatu.
You're dealing with the living, you're dealing with the dead. In the process of rebuilding, I have had to deal with history. I've had to deal with the future.
Engamba yi, ani ayo kizza ebisaaniiko ekiro kino okumpi n'ennyumba n'entuukayo mu mazima nasanga ennyumba yeekutte.
Depends on what we appreciate as our own. For this is Kasubi Tombs. It's your own, it's ours, it's Ugandan.
N'enkuba enduulu naye abali munda nga tebawulira n'ennyingirira ddala ne mbagamba banaye mufulume.
Ensonga lwaki bw'olaba ennyumba muzibwazaalampanga eyakwata omuliro mu 2010 bwe tubali tugizizaawo nga bwe yali.
Naye kale mpulira essanyu kubanga kati njirabako kubanga luli nagakaaba ne ŋŋamba yi nga tufudde ekitiibwa ky'Obuganda okuggwaawo.
Mu lubiri tebavugiramu ggaali, temukookolimirwamu nkoko empanga kuba Sseggwanga ali atya, ali omu ye kabaka.
Missionaries came preaching Jesus Christ as the king.
Yeah.
And we had kings here. We could say, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, let your kingdom come. We had kingdoms here.
Our ancestors cannot be satanic, no. They once lived like us. If you say they are satanic, then when you also die, you will become satanic.
In this first segment, we step into the history of this UNESCO World Heritage Site and the great monarch who built it. It's important that you watch the whole series for context. Although we had intended to produce this series in vernacular, to reach as many people as possible, these Buganda tapes are presented in English. Any factual corrections will be addressed in a pinned comment. The conversation begins right now. Welcome to the Buganda series. I'm your host, Jonathan Benaya. Now, I must state that there will be segments in this series that include comments that are made in vernacular, or call it Luganda. So if you're listening to this in audio form and would like a translation, I've left a link down below in the notes where you can access a video form, a video version of this whole series, and there you'll have subtitles for the Luganda translations. But if you understand Luganda, then I guess you can access the series wherever you prefer. All right, let's get right in.
What makes this place so special?
Yeah, what makes this place so special is that it has the last 4 kings of Buganda buried together. Yes, this is not only the tomb we have in Buganda. Buganda as a kingdom has a number of tombs, but this is more special and significant that it has the last 4 buried together. Yeah.
Interesting. Now, for our listeners, there are terms that we're going to use. We're going to use terms like kabaka. We're going to use terms like sekabaka. We're going to use terms like disappearance, because I understand in this part of Africa, the kings do not die, they actually disappear. Elvis, do you mind just letting us know what all those terms are, and also what is the story behind kings not dying?
Yeah. Yes, first and foremost, kabaka is a term used to mean king. Kabaka simply means king. The king in Buganda, since he's the head of the African traditional religion, not only in Buganda but mostly in Africa, we believed kings that they were shadows of God. Yeah, actually, whenever even we were praying, we used to pray through the king. The king was everything. If the king was not happy, even the gods were not happy. Yeah, because we used to pray through the king. Even when they died, we believed that we still have an attachment with them. We believed that we still have a connection, at least with their spirits. So this reached an extent that people, whenever they were praying, again, they could pray through that particular king. Yeah. When it came that particular king had a special significance, or he was a hero, he did something unique, so they had that desirance whenever they were praying, that at least let me pray through this king. Yeah. So that kind of saying that the kings do disappear, yeah, they die because they are humans, but due to the love people have towards them, we believe they still have an attachment or a connection with them. Okay. Yeah. So instead of saying that the king has died, we say the king has disappeared. Yes. Because we believe maybe sometime he will come back. Yeah. Yes.
You know, when I was in school, we were always told that our loved ones, there was always this phrase that the dead are not dead. They're actually living dead. Yeah. I get the sense it's quite, it probably stems from something like that. Yeah. As I was walking in, I saw a name called Muzibu Azala Mpanga. What does that mean?
Yeah, in Buganda it was a culture. Whenever the king built his palace, he could give it a name. These names, most times they had a significant meaning. Some meanings were quite hidden. Others were brief, like somebody could easily know the meaning just like that. So Mutesa one named his house Muzibu Azala Mpanga. In Buganda, people exalt the king. When I say exalting, it's a sign of showing him love, comparing him to anything in the world which seems to be big, everything which seems to be like powerful. You find somebody calling the king the lion. You find somebody calling king the leopard. But it doesn't mean that he's really a leopard, but he's comparing the strength of that leopard to the king. Yeah. So Muzibu is also among the names of the king. Now the verb azala is giving birth. Mpanga is a name given to a male cock. So Mpanga is also among the names which are used to exalt the king. Okay. So simply, Muzibu Azala Mpanga means kings give birth to kings.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. When I visited the Wamala tombs, I was told the main, if I could call it the palace, where I think was it Suna?
Yeah, that is Suna's place.
They told me the building is called Batanda. Is it Batanda Vezala? Something like that. What interpretation would someone get from that particular name?
Yeah, Batanda Vezala, it is not so much far from Muzibu Azala Mpanga. That's what I can say. This was the official place for, it was the official palace for Kabaka Suna. Now it is his tomb. Yeah, Batanda Vezala also has that hidden meaning. which shows a unique significance to how kings also give birth to kings. Yeah.
Okay. Fascinating. Now, as I probably asked earlier, this place used to be a palace, and when just sitting here, for me is, if I could call it, very sentimental. It feels like we've gone back so many years, and we are sitting in quite sacred ground and quite royal ground. How does it then transition into a burial place, or the royal tombs as we call them today?
Yeah, in Buganda Kingdom, it was a culture that the king, that very place which he identified as his palace, because it was a mandate. Whenever the king came on the throne, he could look for a very special place. Most times there were hills to establish their capitals. It became the capital for the kingdom. Today when somebody says, I'm going to the city, what comes to people's mind is Kampala when you are here. But long time ago, whenever somebody says, I'm going to the city, they always meant the king's palace. Okay. It was the CBD of that time.
Okay. Was it also called Chibuga?
Yes, yeah, Chibuga. Yeah, so it was the center of trade, or as the palace. Whenever the traders came, they always reached direct at the palace. Yeah. So when that king died, as a sign of like marking the end of his regime, they intentionally buried him in his palace. This was done intentionally. When the next king came into power, he couldn't use that very place as his palace. He would be forced to look for another place to establish his own capital. Now Kasubi, it became a tomb after officially burying Kabaka Mutesa I inside his very palace. That's when it transformed. Yeah. Okay.
And which year was that?
He was officially buried here in 1884.
Oh, yeah. He only had 2 years here.
Yes,
oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. Let's just learn or get to know a bit about this ancient kingdom called Buganda.
Yes.
I understand it's the largest monarchy in Uganda.
Yes.
How old is it?
Buganda Kingdom, when you read through the books, it traces its origin almost 800 years back. Yeah, yeah.
I kind of feel it should be older. Like when I read about Buganda, it seems, I'm always fascinated anyway, and it seems to be a lot older than 800 years.
800 years, yes, yeah. When you read some books, they'll say it is 800. Others say more than 800. Okay. Maybe the history of writing and reading, that's how they try to trace it.
Okay. How does Buganda come about? How does this become a kingdom?
Yeah, when you try to read the history of the Interlacustrine region, when I say the Interlacustrine region, I mean the areas of the Great Lakes and rivers. People who most lived in the Interlacustrine region were like farmers, most agriculture, the fertile soils they had, the good climate. So when you go back, the first occupants were mainly called, their history is not also clear even when you try to tell it to the students and the scholars who come here. We have the Batembuzis, we have the Bachwezi. It is believed that Bachwezi, they were like the second occupants. Okay. Then we have the Luo Babito. We're on the waves how Buganda is now coming. We have the Luo Babito. After the Luos, we have the Bunyoro Chitara. And it is believed Bunyoro Chitara was also one of the most powerful empires we've ever had in the history. Now, the rise of Buganda comes after the collapse of such empires like Bunyoro Chitara. It is even believed that the founder of Buganda, Chintu, actually was called Kato Chintu, was a twin brother to the founder of Bunyoro Chitara.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
Interesting.
And when you read this history of Bunyoro and Buganda, you find that we have things which we connect.
That kind of overlap.
Yeah, the naming, the characters, mostly the culture, they are quite similar.
Okay. Take me back to the 1880s when Sekabaka Mutesa, the first, the then reigning monarch, was here.
Yeah.
How big was this place in terms of land? I've read stories that it probably stretched all the way to Makerere University.
Yes.
How big was it?
Yeah, kings, they had authority on everything, even when it came to land distribution. Yeah, kings could monitor that. Not like today, but Kasubi as an area, it could cover up many hills. Yes, as we've said, Makerere side could stretch up to the hills of Namirembe. It could stretch up to, there is a hill this side, I've forgotten the name, but it was quite a very, very large empire. And most cases, whenever the servants of the kings pleased him, then this is how he could distribute this land to them. Okay. That you're going to have part of this. You're going to use this side, given you this as a gift, as a prize. Okay. Yeah, you've given me this. Maybe you've won a battle, you've been in a war. That's how land maybe came in. You find people owning now different hills like today. Yeah.
So how big is this Kasubi Royal Tombs at the moment?
At the moment, Kasubi stretches up to 64 acres.
Wow, that's still huge, eh?
Yeah, of land. Yeah.
Interesting. Let's just stay in that period, the 1880s. Yeah. I'm just trying to imagine, how was that day like when this particular palace was completed and Ssekibuule Mutesa was now ready to enter it? I imagine it must have been a huge celebration. What could that day have been like?
I cannot say that there is a specific time you say that I've really completed this house. Since most of them are vegetal materials, after a given interval, there is some kind of restoration. Yes, after the accomplishment, as usual, there is that big celebration. The king is entering his hut. That entrance where we came from, that was where he stayed when he was waiting for the accomplishment of this main one, the main hut. Yeah, the particular rituals, and I'll say each clan has that particular role to play. Okay. Yeah, in the constructing of the king's enclosure. Interesting. So the king can be inside, but again, after a given interval, there's some restorations which are done. Okay. Yeah.
You hinted about the place we came into, and you said it's called Bujabukula. What does that mean?
Yeah, Bujabukula, it has two dialects. I would say it has two meanings. Can try maybe to choose one. Bujabukula simply means that the kingdom is growing, or Buganda. Bujabukula. Yeah, the kingdom is growing. May I take it in this context? Me as myself, when you enter that hut, it is quite not very big, but when you enter through it, you come to see this bigger one. So the hut's coming growing. Okay. Yeah, when you're coming this side.
That's a nice way to put it.
Maybe after here you find something bigger than even this one, that side. Yeah.
You talked about the different clans and the roles that they had in either building or also maintaining this place. Yeah. Is there evidence of that work here? Can you maybe tell us probably this particular clan was responsible for this, this one was responsible for this? If we looked around this palace, would we be able to tell the work of a particular clan?
Yeah. Most especially here inside, some of the work is not always visible. That this work is done by this clan, can you see it? Some I would say they are spiritual, some are hidden. But these ones which are mostly visible, like the interior designing, which you can see, the rings, the backcloth, like wrapping on the poles, it is mostly done by the people, the Leopard clan. Okay. And the term they always give them in Luganda, they are called Abagirinya. Okay. Where the name maybe Segirinya comes from.
I was about to ask.
Yeah. Then the thatching is the people of the black and white Columbus monkey. Okay. I don't know whether they were chosen. Maybe they're good climbers because they're monkeys, but they do the thatching. And not everyone in the clan can do that particular work. Those specific people who do that work, because I might be coming from the Leopard clan, and I'm not worthy to do this work.
Yeah.
You might have had some good time with your wife and you're not clean enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there are a lot of spiritual things which are followed. Yeah, when they're choosing those people to do that particular work.
Okay, interesting. And I've read that the rings in this main building, they total up to the number of tribes. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, the clans.
Clans, sorry.
The clans, yeah, they represent the clans.
Okay, are they arranged in any particular order? Is there, like, if I could call it, significance towards a particular clan as opposed to another?
No, not really, but what it is, they total up to the number of the clans we have in the kingdom, and except the 3 ones which you see up.
Okay.
Yeah, those 3 ones are actually the original ones. I would say they had been made by himself, but when the house caught fire, they went spoiled. The center one, it is actually made at the exact size of the head of the king.
Oh.
Yes, when you look at it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's very fascinating.
So it represents the king himself.
Wow.
The next one, when you look at them, they're quite unique from these ones. The next one, the princes, and the third one for the princesses.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm so fascinated. This is indeed incredible architecture, but I'd also like to know, were there any previous kings that probably had architecture of this magnitude, or was the work that Sekabaka Mutesa I did it amaze people in this part of the world, or were there kings that had preceded him that probably also had equally magnificent palaces?
Yeah, a number of kings had magnificent palaces, especially on the top of the hills. Like the last king who established a palace for himself, that was Mwanga. Yeah, today where we have the Kabaka's palace in Mengo, the once a palace, actually of the same kind, like here where we are.
Okay.
It was the palace of King Mwanga. What amazes the visitors who come here is the African architecture.
Yeah.
Yeah, the kings exhibited a high sense of skill and knowledge whenever it came to construction. So he saw something unique and they applied a lot of time and knowledge in it. So this was mostly portrayed in many kings' palaces, not only here. Okay. When you visit even Wamala tombs, you can try to see how these men try to weave in their hearts. Yeah. Some visitors even ask, doesn't it leak? But it doesn't. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. What were relations like with other kingdoms? Of course, you mentioned Bunyoro as a kingdom that probably has a connection with Buganda, but what about other kingdoms and chiefdoms in the region? What was the relationship between Buganda and them?
Yeah, I won't generally say that the relationship between Buganda and the neighboring kingdoms was always good, because Buganda began as a very, very small kingdom. Actually, Buganda expanded on the expense of the neighbors through wars. Actually, reading the ancient kings like Junju, these kings engaged themselves directly in the battles. They fought. Actually, Junju himself is the one who annexed Masaka today, which we call Budu, to Buganda.
Yeah.
It was from Bunyoro and next it to Buganda. Yep. So, yes, the relationships, when it came to trade, that's how I say it was good, exchanging different items like backcloth, salt, and other various items.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't help but ask this as well, because I come from, majority of the time my office is in the bush.
Yeah.
Majority of the films that I make about conservation, and when I read, I understand that Sekabaka Mutesa, I don't know if it was either the first or the second, he had a leopard.
Yeah.
And the leopard is personally my favorite animal. Tell us about that particular leopard that he had in this palace.
Yeah, that leopard was like more of his pet. Like when you have a dog at home or a cat.
It's quite a pet. Eh?
Yeah, for him it was his pet actually. This proved his strength and authority as a king. Actually, when you read in the book called Through the Dark Continent, this book was written by Henry Morton Stanley. Yeah, Stanley saw the leopard himself. Stanley says in his words that I myself also got scared. How can somebody tame a leopard? Stanley said whenever the king could sit on his throne, this leopard could come and sit on his side down here. And he named it Mayanja. That was the name which he gave it. Now, when King Mutesa died in 1884, this leopard never lived for long. It also died. Then they tried to stuff it. Then it was placed inside here. Unfortunately, on the 10th tragedy, 16th March 2010, we lost it through the fire.
That's unfortunate. And for our listeners, I know Elvis is hinting about an event, a very sad event that happened in 2010. We will have a particular chat about that, so just stay with us. Elvis, I also would like to ask about what would, perhaps if we stayed in that same period of the 1880s, what would an average day look like for a king like Kabaka Mutesa the First?
Kabaka Mutesa I will say most of his times they couldn't. Most of the some of the kings, some went into the battles directly, but find that Mutesa I was not so much in the battles. He was more of a hospitable king. Welcoming king, would usher in here visitors from different societies. I would say he was a man who thought some steps far, like creating good connections with other people, especially a person whom he looked at and at least I can get something through this person. Ushering in here many of the visitors and taking them through what exactly happened here in his palace.
Was the interior of the palace segmented in any way, or was it just one big room? Did he have like a bedroom, or do you know?
And if you read in the books of that time, yes, he had his own bedroom. And the sitting yard, mostly his wives and the entertainers, where they could sit and entertain him through drumming and dancing. Maybe when he felt like now I want to take a nap or to sleep, that's when he could march to his bedroom.
Okay. I actually must commend you as people of this ancient kingdom of Buganda for really conserving this place. I already said earlier on that I'm fascinated. I got emotional when I arrived here. It's a place that really gets you sentimental. But I'd like to know if Kabaka Mutesa I walked into this particular palace today, would he recognize it, or have there been some changes?
Actually, that's a very big question. Today when he comes in, I'll say a lot of things have changed. And that tragic incident which we had on 16th March 2010 changed a lot of things. Also when he comes, yes, his house is there, but a lot of things actually that have changed. His peers, he had his peers here, especially when his subjects went for the battles, his men, and they defeated. Maybe he was one of the most powerful figure outside there. They could bring that specific spear here to the king and hand it over to him, and he could keep it inside here. Yes, we try to save some items actually in the fire. But things cannot come back the same way how the house was.
It's sad that is going to be part of the history of this place for so many years to come. I also read that Sekabaka Suna also lived here before, like so many years before. Is that true?
This was like his point. Actually, the house which he was always used, that was Bujja Kukula. Yeah, he could use it as a point to distribute herbal medicine to his people. Yeah, this herbal medicine could help people to cure different diseases, cough, malaria, that strong kind of fever, and even expectant mothers. Yeah, we could wrap them in the banana leaves. The banana leaf in Luganda is called Olulagala. Yeah, many they are in Dagala.
Okay.
So they were dropped around here. Maybe that when you read that, they say the name Navulagala came from the banana leaves, which
I was
are
about to ask.
frequently thrown here.
Yeah. Then where does the name Kasubi come from?
Then Kasubi was a village. Mutesa calls it home, where he grew up from. Actually, today when you go in Chagwe, that is, today they call it Mukono side, Mukono district. Today is known as Mukono, but in Buganda counties is Chagwe. Yeah, that side of Chagwe, there is a village called Kasubi. Yeah, Mutesa was his favorite village, where he spent his time as a young man. Yeah, so when he came to Navulagala, then he tried to change the name, like to brand this place also Kasubi, in the memory of his beloved village where he grew up from.
Okay, so that's how this place becomes to be called
Kasubi. Now they combine them, Kasubi, Navulagala.
Kasubi, Navulagala.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. I also realized that Buganda as a kingdom has a number of their key, if I could call them, buildings, monuments, but particularly palaces seem to be on top of hills. What was the idea behind that? Why did you always build on top of the hills? I know for some kingdoms around the African continent, palaces are usually hidden because there's always that threat of being attacked. So getting to the palace might take a bit of meandering. Why was it slightly different for the case of Buganda Kingdom?
Yeah, these kings in Buganda, they're always yearning for the strategic location. And again, building these palaces on the top of the hill to help in the security purposes. When you build your house on top of the hill, it is more easier for you to watch all the neighboring people. In case when they're coming to attack you, easily be like told, or you easily come to aware that maybe I'm going in battle now, than when you are not on the top of the hill. Leave alone today the developments, the modernity which we have. You can stand on one hill and cannot access another one due to the buildings and so forth. But imagine anciently, we never had the buildings. All the land was free. When you stood on Kasubi here, you could view what was there in Namirembe. You could view what was in that side of Rubaga. You could view every and each neighboring place. So in case of any attack, actually it was mainly for security importances. Yeah.
Okay. You know, when I listen to how you describe places like this and how, of course, you mentioned earlier that the palace was structured in a way that the Chibuga as we know it today was structured in a place that it started from the palace and spread outwards. That is how it was built. And there's always been this conception, I really don't want to call it a misconception, but there's always been this state that the city as we know it was a work of modern architecture that came miles and miles away from Europe. But the more I study ancient civilizations like Buganda, I realize that when foreigners got here, they actually were fascinated by how organized this part of the world was. I'm using the example of the Chibuga as one thing. The fact that you had, like maybe if I could call it the center of the government as a palace, and then around it you had the chiefs living around, and then it continued to spread outwards. What does that make you feel as a Muganda, and also as someone from, if I could call it the clan of the princes, if I could, I don't know if that is the direct translation in English. Does that give you any sense of pride when you learn that when the foreigners got here, they were fascinated by how organized this part of the world was?
Yeah, actually, I myself am also very proud, to be part of like the Kingdom of Buganda, not only the king, but the mighty kingdom in the east and central of Africa. The best picture of Buganda, which I myself came fascinated with, was through Henry Merton Stanley. Yeah, when Stanley approached Mutesa I, in his words, Stanley says, when my eyes looked at Mutesa, Mutesa smiled as if he knew me a long time. He welcomed me. He described Mutesa from the shoe up to what he was, the garment which was putting on up. Yeah. Why am I saying all this? Buganda had a unique picture to the people who always came here. These Europeans had a negative attitude towards Africa, a dark continent, a place where there was so much hostile tribes, a lot of things. But when they arrived to Buganda, Buganda gave a very, very opposite thing to them. He welcomed them. So I myself, I'm really actually proud of that being part of the kingdom of Buganda. Yeah.
Fantastic. Now, as we head towards the end of this first segment, I would like to know, I read that kings of the past were buried in the palaces that they built. Yeah. Why then does this particular palace become the final resting place for four great kings of Buganda?
Yeah, that's actually a good question. It was a palace of King Mutesa I. Then afterwards, he was buried inside his palace. That's when it was turned to be a tomb. Then the second king to be placed here was called King Mwanga. Now, Mwanga had his capital in Mengo. And it is important to tell you that they had already made his son as a king when he was in exile. So after his death, they couldn't bring his body and bury him in the place where his son is now living as a king. So it had to be brought on his father's here. Now this also came applying to the next kings. By that time, Daudi Chwa was a king already when his father was in exile. So it was not easy to bring the body of the father and again bury it in the palace where his son lives. Yes. So it had to be brought here. Yeah.
So that's how this place then became if I could call it a mausoleum of some sort.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I do realize that the order in which the portraits of the great kings, the Basekabaka, the order in which they are arranged is not from father to son to grandfather.
To son, okay.
Is there a particular reason why?
Yeah, actually, this is King Mutesa I, the one who is this side. We call him the father of modernity. Yeah. Whatever we have here in Uganda, whatever we see, it was through him. The unique thing about him, since he's the founder, he was placed in the middle of the heart. When you see the entrance, it is looking exactly, it's facing exactly. And these are not the graves. These are just replicas of how original graves look like at the back of the curtain. Yeah. So in Buganda Kingdom, as a sign of respect, sons, whenever they are with their fathers, you cannot do certain things when you are with your dad as a sign of respect to him. Yeah. So Mwanga, this was his father. So Mwanga was placed the other side. And Uganda, you have what we call Obuko. Obuko, I don't know how they translate it in English, but I always call it discipline and a sign of respect. Now, Obuko comes when your wife cannot go close or face your dad or her father-in-law. Yes. They say father-in-law, I mean your father. Mwanga's wives, if he was placed closer to his father, they couldn't come to see their husband when their Caesar is here, or their father-in-law is here. So this sign of respect is still considered even when that person is departed.
Even in the afterlife.
Yes, even in afterlife, because we believe even the spirits lie here. Okay. So he was placed at the extreme end, the other side.
Okay.
So the sign of respect to his father.
Yes.
Yes. Now, when it comes to like having the grandparents, children feel a lot of freedom when they're with grandparents than parents at times. Yes.
That's actually the same in even our current state. Yeah.
When you're with your grandparent, you even run up and down, you run on the chairs, you're free to do everything when you're with your grandparents. Yes. Now, the son of Mwanga Daudi Chwa, this is his grandfather. So he was brought and placed this other side. So he's free there he's with the grandfather. Okay. We believe even in the afterlife they are together. Okay. The grandchild and his grandfather.
Yes.
Now the son of Daudi Chwa is Mutesa too. He's also with his grandfather, the other side. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Now the wives of Chwa, when they come, this is also their grandfather. So a lot of freedom is here. Yes. They can sit, they can converse, anything they want because they're at the grandfather's place. Yes. Yeah. Even when the current king comes, now for him, the other side, he has his father there. Yes. So as a sign of respect, he does not go there. Yes, that is his daddy's place. Okay. He will come to the grandfathers because both of these are his grandparents. Wow. This is a dad to his father. Now he's his grandfather. Yes. And this is his great-grandfather.
Great-great-grandfather,
yes.
Coming up in our 7-part series on the history of the Great Kingdom of Buganda.
Culture, African culture in particular, Buganda don't die. Buganda kept alive by fire, by choto, keeps you alive. And if you look at the processes of last funeral rites, or Kwabi Olumbe, it's all about keeping that person alive. It's all about appeasing the ghost. It's all about the next generation coming in. So when you say that I spoke to, let's say, Ssekibuule Daudi Chwa, it's odd for somebody else. You know, you're dealing with the living, you're dealing with the dead. Because in the process of rebuilding, I have had to deal with history. I've had to deal with the future. I've had to deal with what the Baganda call Masengere. I've had to deal with the judges, the different elders. I've had to deal with mediums, the Congos, the carriers of the past Kabakas. Yeah. And in the process, you begin to realize that what you're sorting out, what you're dealing with is a life. It's like a cloud, it's in a cloud, and you keep going to the cloud and you bring out what you need.